History of my oldest ancestors of whom I am very proud descend. July 17, 924, dies Edward, the Elder, King of Wessex, my 35th grandfather, 8 times my grandfather, relevant character in the TV series, The Last Kingdom, on Netflix, son of Alfred the Great, King of Wessex. Edward, the Elder, King of Wessex was the 11th grandfather of Dom Afonso III, King of Portugal, my 25th and 26th grandfather. Edward, the Elder, King of Wessex, was born in 871 and died in Farndon, on July 17, 924. He was the son of Alfred the Great, King of Wessex and Ellesfite, paternal grandson of Ethelwulf, King of Kenton, Wessex and Osburga, and maternal grandson of Ethelredo Musil, Count of Guines and Edburga. Edward, the Elder, was the second of the sons of Alfred, the Great, King of Wessex, and his wife Ellesfite. Edward's eponym, the Elder, was first used in the 10th century in Wulfstan's The Life of Saint Ethelwald, to distinguish him from the later king, Edward, the Martyr. Biography. Infancy. Eduardo's parents, Alfredo and Elesvita, married in 868. Elesvita's father, Ethelredo Musil, Count of Guines, and her mother, Edburga, were members of the Mercian royal family. Alfredo and Elesvita had 5 children who survived childhood. The eldest of them was Ethelfleda, who married Edeld, Lord of Mercia, who reigned as Lady of the Mercians after his death. Edward was next, and the second daughter, Etelgifa, became Abbess of Shaftesbury. The third daughter, Ilfrida, married Baudouin II, the Bald, Count of Flanders and Artois, and the youngest son Etelvido was given a secular education, including learning Latin. This would have suggested that he had remained an ecclesiastic, which seems unlikely in Etelvido's case, as he had children later. There were also an unknown number of children who died young. Succession and beginning of the reign. Edward's succession to his father's throne was not assured, since when Alfred died, his cousin Etelvaldo, son of King Ethelred I, claimed his right to the throne. He took Wimborne, in Dorset, where his father had been buried. Edward marched on Badbury, but Ethelwald refused to leave Wimborne. When he saw that Edward was ready to attack Wimborne, Ethelwald fled at night to Northumbria, where he was proclaimed king. Edward was crowned at Kingston upon Thames, London, on the 8th of June 900. The following year, he took the title King of the Angles and Saxons, distinguishing himself from his predecessors who had been kings of Wessex. In 901, Ethelvaldo arrived in Essex with a fleet and expelled the Damages that then inhabited that region. The following year he attacked Cricklade and Braden. Edward arrived with an army and both sides met at the Battle of Holm. Ethelwald and the Dano king Eorico, of East Anglia, were killed in the battle. Relations with the north were problematic for Edward for several years. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle mentions that he made peace with the Damages of East Anglia and Northumbria out of necessity. There is also a mention of the reconquest of Chester in 907, which may indicate that the city was taken in battle. In 909, Edward sent an army to raise Northumbria. The following year the Northumbrian dam attempted to attack Mercia, but encountered an army made up of Mercians and West Saxons at the Battle of Tetton, where they were defeated. Since then, they have not attacked south of the Humber estuary again. From there, Edward began the construction of several fortresses at Hertford, Witham and Bridgnorth. He is said to have also built one at Surgeed, but this location has not yet been identified. This series of castles kept the damage at bay. Other fortresses were also built at Tamworth, Stafford, Edisbury, and Warwick. Successes. It can be said that Edward surpassed his father's military successes, returning the territory occupied by the Damages to the Saxon domain and reigning over all of Mercia, from 918, after the death of his sister Ethelfleda of Wessex. In the year 918, all the Damage of the south had submitted to Edward. His niece Elfwin, daughter of Ethelfleda, was named successor to her mother, but Edward. A series of Viking invasions from the north forced Edward to enter several battles between the end of 918 and the end of 920. At that time, the Scandinavians, the Scots, and the Gauls called him father and lord. This recognition of Edward's lordship in Scotland led to his successors claiming sovereignty over that kingdom. Edward reorganized the church in Wessex, creating new bishoprics at Ramsbury and Sunning, Wells, and Crediton. Despite this, there is little evidence that Edward was particularly religious. Edward's death. Edward died leading an army against the Cambro-Mercian rebellion on the 17th of July 924 at Farndon, Cheshire. His remains were buried in the new church at Winchester, Hampshire, which he himself had founded in 901. After the Norman conquest, the church was replaced by Hyde Abbey, north of the city, and King Edward's body was moved there. His last resting place is marked by a stone block inscribed with a cross outside the abbey. Family and descent. King Edward had 10 children from his 2 marriages and may have had more illegitimate children as well. From his first marriage to Elfrida, my 35th grandmother, 8 times my grandmother, he had Elfwid from England. Edith of Wessex, married to Otto I, Holy Roman Emperor, my 34th grandparents, 7 times my grandparents. Hedwig of England, my 34th grandmother, 8 times my grandmother, married Herbert de Vermandois, Count of Meaux and Troyes, my 34th grandfather, 5 times my grandfather, and then married Charles III, the Simple, King of France, my 34th grandfather, 7 times my grandfather. Elgiver of Wessex, married Boleslav I, Duke of Bohemia, my 34th grandparents, 7 times my grandparents. Children from second marriage to Edgiver of Kent, my 35th grandmother, 3 times my grandmother. Edmund I, the elder, King of the Saxons, married Saint Elgiver of Shaftesbury, my 34th grandparents, 3 times my grandparents, and then married Ethelfleda of Damerham. Athelstan, King of England. Name unknown, of England, married Sitrick Ceoch, King of York. Duvet, King of England. Edbur from England. Edifu of England, married Ebolus of Aquitaine.